What is going on, guys? Your boy Joey Shakes72 coming to you guys with a video announcement. I want to go over kind of like Howie Roseman, the ownership, and just what the hell happened. How did this front office turn around in 2022? Even the past couple years of these two drafts we've had. I mean, not even just the draft last year. I mean, we had an okay offseason, but the draft was really good last year. But we had the best year, I mean, the best offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles this year in 22. I mean, they built on top of the draft last year, and it looks really good right now. So obviously some news from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And this is kind of just stuff to talk about and reminisce. And I'm not saying everything they say is correct, but there's definitely some stuff you could talk about here. I'm going to read all of it first, and I'll go over it. So it says, Howie Roseman has taken almost total control of Eagles front office decisions. Jeffrey Lurie has stepped back since the Sirianni hire. Roseman is less influenced by others within the organization on making these big moves. And then two moves mentioned that seem to have been how he's doing: A.J. Brown and James Bradberry. Okay, when you look at the trades have always been good with Howie Roseman. Okay, you know, the Eagles want to trade as less as possible, as the lowest pick as possible to get, a really good player in here or somebody that's on a one-year deal. Because Howie likes to get guys on one-year deals. He likes to trade for guys that have one-year deals because they're cheap. Other than trading for Golden Tate for a third-round pick at the trade deadline, I mean, that was pretty much the only move. Like, really, like when does Howie Roseman trade fourth-round picks or higher for players? I mean, it doesn't really happen that much. Even when DeAndre Hopkins was available, I was like, you got to trade for him. You know what I mean? And it didn't cost that much. Like Howie doesn't trade first-round picks. It just never happens. But, trading for A.J. Brown, a first and a third, not giving away picks on the second day of the draft, and not giving away picks with the two first-rounders you have in 2023, it was just absolutely amazing for a 24-year-old wide receiver that has a cheap cap hit this year, even on his new deal for 2023 next year when he's getting paid $25 a year. A.J. Brown's only an $8.3 million cap hit. So, and signed James Bradberry for, 7.3 when he had 11 other teams after him that want to pay him 10, 11, probably more than that, $11 million a year. This team is starting to become more attractive when it comes to analytical picks, and you have the scout and you have the analytics, and Howie Roseman has been an analytics guy. Howie Roseman doesn't draft guys from the SEC, and that's been a huge problem. You saw the rumors from last year after Jeffrey Lurie looked at how Dickerson played and how Devontae Smith played, and went up to Howie and said, hey, and this is what Howie said. He went up to him and pretty much said, you have to draft these guys from the SEC. Like, really? Like, you're saying this now? Like, it's just insane how you're just figuring this stuff out, not from like Michigan State or like these other schools. I mean, you got to draft guys from the top schools, man. This is the only way you're going to get better. And they've been doing that. And I think last year, the Eagles, the Eagles got lucky with a couple picks. I mean, the Dickerson pick was a great pick. It was it's a great pick now. I mean, at the time, the guy was coming off an ACL, best center in college football, but the ceiling was very high, but that ACL was scaring me a little bit. Should have been a late first-round pick. Dickerson should have been there. And because of that injury, he dropped, and the Eagles picked him up in the second round, where we were looking for JOK. We were looking for Asante Samuel Jr. In that draft. So, Howie likes to take chances on guys coming off injury. I went into this year's draft thinking that the Eagles were going to go after Derek Stingley, or obviously Derek Stingley went, very early. We didn't think he would be the first, corner taken off the board, but I figured to go after Jameson Williams, or to go after somebody that's coming off injury, because they'll take advantage of someone coming off injury and taking them. The Eagles have done that. Sidney Jones, Diane Dickerson, they have taken guys in the draft with pretty high picks early. So when we drafted Landon Dickerson, I was like, I like it for the ceiling, but if this pick works out, then great. And then you had Milton Williams in the third round, and that was a big analytical pick because I never even heard of that guy. Okay, Milton Williams was, he had a very good short area quickness. I forgot what school he went to. It was on top of it literally was just in my head, and I just lost it. It was top 5 in a lot of categories, training categories, metrics, just testing in general. He was top 5 in a lot of testing categories. So that was more of an analytical pick. And he seemed to, be a third rounder, I think makes a pretty good stride in 2022 this year. I think a pretty strong year last year. And when they had him in for that Cowboys game at the end of the year, I thought he played pretty well, to be honest with you. But Jeffrey Lurie actually sitting back, after the Sirianni hire, I could probably believe it. I mean, we don't know what happened even with Rager. I mean, Doug Peterson had no idea. Talk about Doug Peterson, had nothing to do with that Rager pick. I mean, he even said to John Clark this offseason, before he became the Jaguars head coach. It was before that, and said, like, you're looking at me, quote unquote, you're looking at me. He didn't draft him. Who drafted Jalen Hurts? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, I think Jeffrey had a lot to do with with Jalen Hurts. I think with the Rager pick, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was another one that obviously you passed on a lot of receivers that draft. McLaurin, A.J. Brown. I mean, there was a lot of receivers you passed on, and he was the worst one out of that whole entire draft. That's been pretty much non-existent in this offense and how they've really been treating him. It's just. I can't blame them for how they're treating JJ. He's he's a good blocker, but I mean, he can't do nothing much else. Now they have him as a tight end now on his last year of his deal. You can go back as far as Marcus Smith, even with with Howie Roseman. Even with that pick, I think, and Howie Roseman has told the truth about that pick. It said, yeah, that was my pick. I made that pick, and it was a bad pick, obviously. So you can go back as far as possible with some of these draft picks. But, it's crazy because the last few years actually, between Joe Douglas, Andrew Berry leaving, going to be the Cleveland Browns GM. I mean, you lost. You're going to be losing. Andy Weidel. They fired a few people. They hired this guy from Denver. I think they hired that Schrader, whatever his name is, the wide receiver, as a scout. I mean, they've hired some new guys. As scouts, and obviously, that guy from Denver, I forgot his name. I can't remember it. I made a video on it probably a week or two ago. So I feel like the more front office guys that have been leaving, the better that we're actually getting at drafting. Even the past, like I said, it's only the past couple seasons. And you hit on some picks, you hit on some picks with Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert. You hit on some picks, Quez Watkins, huge pick for us. So, I mean, they've hit picks the past 3 years. This year, last year, and the year before that. I thought they've hit on some picks, but they, and some have been really horrible. And I think Jeffrey Lurie has stood back. I think there's been more of a collaborative effort when it comes to, Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman. You look at these press conferences after these drafts, and you're like, even draft night, the first day, second day, and Howie Roseman and Nick are like, I feel like there's just a different buzz in the room. I mean, you felt when you watched that press conference after the first night of the draft, like they were just so comfortable with each other, and I felt like they were on the same page. You know what I mean? Like, that made me feel really good inside, real comfortable inside, and I kind of wasn't, of course I'm nervous about the next pick on day 2, day 3, whatever it is, but at the same time, I feel more comfortable of like where this is heading now. I think Jeffrey Lurie, like I said, has backed off. Howie Roseman has taken more control. And I don't know how much control he's had over Rager or Arcega-Whiteside, these picks that we've had. I think Jeffrey Lurie has had a big hand in this as well. And it's, it's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it's like when us fans look at the draft and we know what players are good, like we know what players not to pick. And I mean, it's common sense. And Howie has just made some really big question mark type picks that we're just like, how do you make a pick like this? Out of what players that are available at the time. You know what I mean? So I feel like, Howie literally took over this draft by himself, and he said, let me handle my own crap. And this is why all these front office guys are leaving, and he's handpicking guys that are going to be working with him and listening to him, because maybe there has been fight back with Howie Roseman in the past few years. You know what I mean? Maybe there, not few years, but been a while. Maybe there has been fight back. I mean, the Chip Kelly years, I won't even count that, just because Chip made a lot of decisions. Howie Roseman got thrown in the boiler room anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then Howie came back in 2017 with full control of this roster and built a Super Bowl winning roster. I mean, that's pretty much what happened. And then ever since then, we've been drafting really bad. Okay, we've been drafting bad since the Super Bowl. Except that these past, I'd say 2 to 3 years, we've made some pretty good picks. I think this year was obviously the best draft, the best offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles in years. So I feel like in some way, like I'm not apologizing for Howie Roseman, what I've said about him, because at the end of the day, it's like it's going to take more than just him just doing this off season. It's more than that. The 2 years is going to make me happy. Like, I want to build something. I want this team to show it on the field this year, because I know Howie has nothing to do with how these players produce, but I got to see what these coaches are going to do with some of these players. And if like Nakobe Dean comes in here and he doesn't even start, it's going to be an issue. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you never know, producing these players, and hopefully, these players are coming to the right spots. And hopefully now what we have to prove is, are these the right coaches for these players? Is this the right coaching staff moving forward to compete for a championship? Because I'm telling you right now, if Jalen Hurts works out this year, okay, if he works out this year, you got 2 first-rounders and a second-round pick. Do whatever the hell you want with. I mean, I'd trade back one of those picks next year. So there's a lot going on here. You know what I mean? So when it comes to, like, is Howie telling the truth? Is he lying? With all these past drafts, I feel like Howie has taken more control. And where I feel comfortable in my heart when I say this, I feel like he has taken more control of these drafts. He has not listened too much from Andy Weidel and maybe some of these other guys, maybe the scout analytical, maybe he's going with his gut and going with himself. And I feel like that's what's going on. I feel like now he's going to be hiring people to that front office that are going to be more interested in working with him and working on his final decision. But Howie Roseman is not going to be, jabbing back and forth. It's going to be his final decision on draft night. But when it comes to trades, I think it's all been Howie when it comes to trades. He's made good trades. It's nothing when he makes a bad trade. Okay. If I didn't say this before, like I said, with the trades in general, he always trades for guys that were on 1-year deals. Remember, you trade a 6th-round conditional 5th rounder for a guy that's on that's got 1 more year left. He likes trading for guys that have 1 more year left on his contract. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then when you just rent him for the year and he plays well and he leaves, then it's a problem. Not like we've had that. I thought we should have traded for DeAndre Hopkins. I thought we should have done a lot of moves. Howie Roseman never trades a 1st-round pick. He never takes chances. He is never aggressive. But holy crap, dude. These past couple years, Howie has been, especially this draft, aggressive. I mean, you went up and got Jordan Davis. You gave up a few picks for it, but screw it, guys. Like, day 3 of the draft, I don't want to have 3, 4, 5th-round picks, 10, 6th-round picks. I'm just exaggerating, but you know what I mean? Like, day 3, we have so many picks. I'm tired of picking on day 3. I'm tired of it. Be aggressive and go get your man. And they did. They got Jordan Davis. They gave up a few picks for it, but I don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we garnered so many picks the past couple seasons to live up to this moment, to trade them away, to get a player. And I felt like the Ravens were going to get Jordan Davis. You know what I mean? Then on top of that, I mean, you trade with the Titans to get A.J. Brown, which was already done before the draft. And I'm telling you right now, A.J. Brown, he's going to electrify this team, man. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's up to the coaches to produce these players. And then at the end of the day, it's up to Jalen Hurts, okay? It's up to Nick, Shane Steichen, Jonathan Gannon, and obviously Jalen Hurts is the final piece of this puzzle to see where are we going. I mean, these draft picks next year are really going to rely on him at the end of the day. So I don't know what they're going to do, okay? But I feel like Howie has taken more control, and I feel like we're seeing a different GM that we should have been seeing a while ago. And I feel like there's been way too much push and pull on decisions, and not just with Howie, with other people. And look, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that Howie has done this the whole entire time. I feel like Howie has made bad picks, okay? Don't get me wrong. But I feel like with some of these recent picks that haven't worked out, I feel like maybe it wasn't Howie Roseman fully by himself overall with some of these picks for missing on DK and Justin Jefferson that we talk about pretty much every single week. You know what I mean? And then go into this season and you get A.J. Brown. You get a center for the future. You get the future defensive tackle of this team because you're losing 2 defensive tackles this year. Obviously, Javon Hargrave's a re-sign candidate. I mean, you did so much. You signed James Bradbury, a number 2 corner. I mean, you made some good moves, man. I mean, the cap don't mean a damn thing to me. Like, I figured, I got attacked so many times by, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are working out, and it's like, oh, well, we're not getting it. We don't have the cap. Doesn't matter how much money we have, guys. I know there's a limit, but it doesn't matter how much money we have. If Howie wants to sign them, just because we don't have enough to sign doesn't mean they can't make moves. Okay, they can still make moves right now if they want to, create more cap space. So not to make this video so long, because it is over 14 minutes, but I kind of want to elaborate, rant on I feel like the more front office guys they're getting rid of, I think what happened was Howie made really good picks. He went on his own gut. He did it all himself. He made all decisions without no push, no shove. And I felt like he kind of said, I could do this. I need to change this front office that are going to be more towards him and not backfire. If he thinks he can make the right moves, I'm totally fine with it. If he thinks he can make the right moves for this Philadelphia Eagles team, I'm totally fine with it, for a championship, whatever the case may be. But I'm going to say this, he really surprised me the past couple years, especially this year. But, I'm giving it another year. I'm going to give it another year. Okay, if we win 13 games this year, I'm telling you right now, Howie Roseman's going to look really good. Going to look really good, and especially this team. If they win 13 games, they at least win the East and at least win a playoff game. If they could just do that, and it's as far as they can go, I'll be happy. I'll be happy. Depending if obviously the defense is winning games for us, or Jalen Hurts is making a lot of mistakes. It depends how we get there, obviously from that, but. There's a lot to look forward to, guys. A lot to look forward to. So, other than that, I'll stop my rant because the video is as long as it is right now. But, you know what I mean? Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing with Howie Roseman. Do you think he has more control right now? Do you think Jeffrey Lurie has backed off since Nick was hired? What do you guys think? And what do you think these changes are, these front office changes are for? Do you think that Howie is getting rid of these people because he wants more people that are going to be listening to him? Then maybe he is going back and forth with a lot of people within the scouting department, analytical, and front office, like Andy Weidel or some of these other people. So you guys let me know, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shake Squad up, follow, peace out, guys. Peace.